Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Edward. I'm a global director of threat intelligence Smarttech 24/7. I'll do some quick introductions, some words from the sponsor. I will then tell you a bit about hacking, something like practical tips because we don't have much time. You can spend whole time on earth speaking about hacking, but I will try to drop some practical tips and then we'll do some practical exercises. I know that Didar mentioned it on the Meetup page that we'll be doing the TryHackMe. If not any one of you didn't heard about that platform, it's a platform for learning hacking. You actually don't need any explicit tools other than the computer because it's accessible to the browser, and thing that we'll be doing, everything can be done from a simple browser. There are a couple of tools included there. Every free account has like a virtual box with a Linux instance and a set of tools available, I think, for 1 hour in a month, something like it. But we probably won't need it, but I will speak about a couple of things that can be done like extra, just to know some of the techniques and jump into the mindset of a hacker. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm a father and a husband, a hacker, and a CTO offensive security, I think in that particular order. As for my skill set, so you'll have some proof that I'm good in order to teach you something. I think when I'll be speaking about when I started hacking, I would say it was something around 90s when there was mobile phones with like Nokia 3310, and we, together with my brother, we removed SIM locks. So it's a bit of sort of a hacking thing. Most of the work was done by my brother, but well, indeed, this was like kind of hacking. I became a full stack web developer, and in a full meaning of this word, because today in a software development, we have front-end developers, back-end developers, database architects, DevOps engineers, and so on. Back in days when I was doing web development, you gotta knew everything to put a website online. So you gotta knew the design program, you gotta code HTML front end, you gotta do some backend language, you gotta know how to set up a server, a web server, and put the website online. So that was basically the skill set that was required from a web application engineer back in the days. It's a bit different these days. After doing that, I started work as in cybersecurity as a penetration tester. I got some certification, but I think that there's point into showing which exactly. I've done a lot of CTF. This is a capture the flag competitions. These are kind of competitions online available for persons, for people or for teams of hackers who just want to win something. I think if somebody asked me, my greatest achievement as a pen tester, as offensive security, was gaining a light hacker on Hack the Box. Hack the Box is another type of platform to learn online. A light hacker is like a peer drunk when you get over 70% of all the laboratory there that are given there in a specific time frame. So it's a hard. I don't think there's much people who get those. There are only 2 ranks above, and yeah, that's for me personally, it's far better than gaining some certificates. So I've been doing all kinds of offensive cybersecurity, web applications, mobile networking, forensics, social engineering, red teaming, source code analysis, basically anything, name it. I then became a CTO of the offensive security department. So I'm doing some leadership there. I do research and development, and I design process and procedures and develop methodologies that are used by our team in the offensive security. So a bit about Smarttech 24/7. So we are a global company, publicly listed. We're doing basically everything that's related to cybersecurity. So we got an MDR, we provide SOC services, incident response, we provide vulnerability management. We're doing cyber threat intelligence, monitoring the dark web, the dark net, trying to identify all new kinds of threats. We're doing governance risk, helping companies to get certified for ISO, for example, and other other different compliances. We're doing data security, data loss prevention, and strategies, and the offensive security, which is actually done by my department. So again, as said, it's a full range of different types of assessment: penetration testing, vulnerability scanning, web, mobile applications, social engineering, red teaming. And aside of that, my department is doing forensic security for digital forensic investigations. So just a couple of brands we've been working for, probably you've seen some of those. About the offensive security department, I'm not going to tell about other departments because I'm the CTO of that department. So as said, we're doing web, mobile, software. We got specialists of all kinds: web developers, software developers, security analysts, network system administrators. We got specialists in reverse engineering. A lot of team members are attending actively at those bug bounty programs or capture the flag competitions. Of course, everyone is an ethical hacker. And again, as I said, we're doing a full range of all kind of offensive security assessment. We do hold some of certifications if anyone interested. Basically, this is some review of what sort of certification the team members are holding, and just if somebody is interested, an entry level actually for our department is to have a minimum OWASP or an equivalent. So this is like one of the basic but most recognizable certification in the cybersecurity. For those who don't know how to get that certified, basically you gotta spend 48 hours when first 24 hours you're doing some hacking, and the next 24 hours you're doing report writing. So it's basically the essence of what is hacking and what is offensive cybersecurity. And maybe a nice information is that and by the end of previous year, one of our team members have gained 3 of those certificates in a month. So the OCP is the shortest one, so it takes 48 hours. But there are certifications will take 72. So basically, the colleague of mine spent like a week from a month, a full week with nights on getting certified. Not to mention the time where he had to work, when he had to learn for and prepare for those.
And sleep sometimes, maybe?
Sir?
Sleeping? Was that
no
the
time
normal?
for sleep. Yeah, and that's basically.
Which one would you say is the most beginner friendly?
Well, the offensive security certified professional, so OSCP, is probably the most basic, and as I mentioned, example, to get into our department as a junior pen tester, you gotta at least have this one or be during like attending that certification.
How about the certified ethical hacker? Is that?
No. It's a fundamental, but the exam for certified ethical hacker is how you say it. It's just you just select the answers. So there's a chance that you'll simply you don't know the answer, but you have a luck. So it's said it's a basic. Of course, you got to get some knowledge, but it's very theoretical knowledge. They ask about, for example, the question on certified ethical hacker are, okay, what flags do you put for a tool in order to do some scan? Obviously, you will remember this if you have experience, but it's not something you got to remember. There's Google for it, right? There's a manual for every tool, right? You just enter /help or whatever, and you will see all the details. There's no point in remembering all of this, especially in cybersecurity where the tools are changing so fast. So I wouldn't call it as a good thing, but eventually BURP certified practitioner. I will tell a bit about this because this is a strictly a web application related certification, but it's very good from a practical point of view, and it's fairly cheap, I would say, for example, comparison to SCP. And most important, the learning labs are free. Okay, so let me jump into mindset of a hacker. So This is just a mind map. It's not a full presentation, but I would say the mind maps are practically the best tool invented for presenting some creative work, and I just love to use it. So we just follow up. So, okay, so what is hacking? Basically, I think in 1986, there was a hacker manifesto published on one of the magazines, which I'd say it's the essence of who a hacker is and what is hacking. So just a couple of sentences from that manifesto on that magazine, from the person who wrote it. So I made a discovery today. I found a computer. Wait a second, this is cool. It does what I want it to do. If it makes mistakes, it's just because I screw it up, not because it doesn't like me. We seek for knowledge and you call us criminals. Yes, I am criminal. My crime is of curiosity. And curiosity, I would say that's the one specific attribute of a hacker that's most important. This is what defines us. And I'm not speaking only about hacking in a cybersecurity. I'm, hacking every day. My 11-year-old daughter actually hacked my parental control under her Google device because she asked the Google Assistant to run some application, despite the fact that it was already too late. So she used all the time available on the phone, but she asked Google Assistant, and yeah, she managed to open some games and play a bit more. So this is the hacking. So, and the curiosity, that's the one and most important attribute that defines the hackers. From a practical point of view, what are the areas of hacking? Well, I've already mentioned it, but let's get through it quickly. So web applications, of course, they have front end. So this is something that users see on the browser. By hacking the front end, we actually can hack the user of the web application, not explicitly the application itself, but that can be connected. But just to clarify that, obviously the backends, all the databases, all the code is running on the servers. The backends can have APIs. These are most modern applications actually are using such an architecture where the front and the backend are divided. They're on different infrastructure, and there is some API to communicate with. Network, obviously one of the most important part of hacking, and obviously there are network services and so on, but practically the biggest part of network hacking refers to Active Directory. This is the solution for managing users and access to objects on a Windows networks, but not only, but Windows networks in a big organization are using that technology. Man-in-the-middle attacks, and this is the whole variety of man-in-the-middle attacks are referring to network hacking, and obviously exploiting all different network services. Mobile applications, social engineering, and sorry, no, can't bring me social engineering, where phishing is. We just spoke with the guys.
Hacking the human.
Probably one of the most abused technique these days in order to get some initial access to some organizations, because this is hacking humans. So whenever everyone has a good security controls, there's always a chance that people will fail. Red teaming is basically about staying under the radar. So it's a hacking, but instead of, if I always compare it to a penetration test, when customers asking us, so in a penetration test, we're like pirates. So we just jump in and try to steal everything that's possible. We're loud, everyone sees us, and so on. In red teaming, you got to be like a ninja. So you have to just find out once there's a defined goal, like for example, get access to a CFO computer and maybe approve some invoice. And that's the essence of red teaming. So there's one specific goal that we got to achieve, and we got to stay as low as possible under the radar so nobody will detect us. Obviously, during such a red teaming assessment, you got to probably develop some malware and use some defense bypassing techniques. So this is a bit more advanced level. Cloud security, of course, because a lot of organizations are moving to the cloud. So there's a whole new area of attack related to cloud security. These are still computers on some network, but because of different rules for access management and privileges management on cloud services, it's basically a whole new area of cybersecurity. And yeah, and static code analysis. This is basically a part where we just review the code. It's sort of what we call like white box hacking, where we got every information provided by the customer. We got to understand the code. Obviously, you got to be good in programming, understanding programming language to get into that area. Where to search for knowledge? Okay, so there's obviously OWASP testing guide, and this is something that we'll be following today during that practical examples. Yeah, it covers obviously web applications. Payload all the things is a popular GitHub repository which contains different sort of like scripts or code examples to exploit the different security issues. And just for clarification, I got links here, so I will share that presentation for everyone later to make use of that knowledge. Hack tricks, it's a very good and comprehensive, like a Wikipedia for hackers, when again, there's probably most of the hacking areas and techniques described, both by addressing the description of the security problems, giving practical examples how to exploit those security issues, and even a guidance for how to make it more secure. So sort of like for blue teams, for defenders. And yeah, it covers most of the areas: web, cloud, mobile network, and open operating system hacking. And the hacker recipe is another Wikipedia. It's very good for Active Directory hacking. And again, as said, in a network hacking, Active Directory is probably one of the most seen technology used by organizations. Okay, some practical tips how the process of doing that works. So first, we're doing some scoping. And yeah, in most cases, the scope is provided by somebody to ask, but as a hackers, we need to identify whether the scope will cover all the aspects of the security of an environment, because actually the customer who's coming to us might not be aware that there is something outside of the scope that has an impact on the security on the environment. So whenever you're doing some hacking, try to, well, maybe not go out of the scope straight away because then it's maybe illegal, but consider whether there's any cases that you could take into account and maybe go back to the customer and tell them, okay, guys, I think there's a security problem that's outside of the scope that you defined, but it has an impact on the things that are in scope. So we should like put it in the scope. Once we got the scoping done, there's reconnaissance phase. So during that phase, this is the most important phase actually of hacking. You got to try to identify and fingerprint as much as you can. Everything, the technology that is out there, the assets that are available, anything that can give you some information. What's the environment? What's the technology used environment? What's the purpose of the application of whatever the network you're actually targeting? You got to try to understand how the whole thing works, because sometimes, and I actually see that it's more. I'm seeing the situation more recent lately that the complex environments consist of different components. So people tend to test the component. Okay, let's test the application A, let's test the application B, and let's test the application C. So the applications are fine, were tested separately, but they are interacting with each other. And it seems when we look at those whole environment as a whole, as how the applications cooperate with each other, it proves that sometimes this is insecure. And that's what you need to do when doing reconnaissance. You got to identify those assets, and you got to understand how they work together with each other. Threat modeling. Again, very helpful tool from offensive security. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing it being used a lot by the penetration tester. They just, most of penetration testers are just running the tool they have. Yeah, I got an exploit. I don't got a vulnerability. I won't be talking about the actual tools used for that case, but basically during the threat modeling, the idea is to figure out what can go wrong. Once you got a finger, what you got a reconnaissance, once you understood how that environment works, how the application works, what's the purpose of that application, try to figure out what can go wrong, just hypothetically. Okay, yeah, there are different roles, so there's maybe a chance for privilege escalations. Yeah, there's an application for uploading files. Okay, maybe I can upload some malicious file there. This server connects with some other services on the customer environment. Maybe there is some firewall that actually allows only privileged assets to connect to some areas of that application, like example from a company's office IPs or something like this. Is there a way to bypass that? How that restriction was designed? Maybe there's a way to bypass it. I don't have to explicitly be in that location, or maybe I can. I just gotta go to the office and connect to the guest Wi-Fi, and I have a privileged IP address.
That's why it's so important to have a guest network
Separation.
separated from your
That's
office.
we don't see it much, but yeah, that's very important. The vulnerability scanning phase, obviously, this is a combination of manual and automated tools phase where we won't be able to test everything manually. So don't try to be fooled that penetration testers are doing everything manually. No, they don't. They run a tools, but they review the output of that tools and they try to find out what we call low-hanging fruits, or maybe something that pointing to some security issues where they can follow up with doing some manual testing on those endpoints. It's kind of like these days is in order to find a vulnerability, we're actually searching for anomalies in the environment. So whenever something responds expected to an input that's not designed. For example, if I have an application where I should put phone number, what happens when I put like I don't know, try to put some very long content there? Will the server break? Will it handle? So this is basically what we're doing. We're trying to find vulnerability. Of course, we're also searching for typical commonly known vulnerabilities. For that phase, you got to use a variety of tools. Don't rely on single tool. Also try to search places like GitHub. There's a lot of open source, if not full tools, then open source scripts that can be used for testing like specific technology and finding some vulnerabilities in that specific technology or even a specific version. Rely on your intuition. Now, if you have a feeling that something might be wrong there is a high chance there's possibly something there. Yeah, just focus on that and follow that intuition. Try to find something. There's a high chance that it's a good point you made that there is some security issue. Sorry, I'll get back. One important tool when one important tip when using different tools. If you get a feeling that probably there is some security issue, but the tool doesn't found anything, try to debug the tool. Try to understand. Maybe I run it with incorrect parameters, or maybe I give it incorrect input. Yeah, just make sure that the tool actually tested what you expected to test, because multiple times I've seen like, I don't know, Nessus. Nessus is one of the most known vulnerability scanner. Multiple times I've seen it failed into recognizing vulnerabilities just because the technology, the application wasn't installed in default path, or it didn't detected something because of network issues. So it didn't detect that the host is online, but because some network connectivity issues didn't mean that the host is online. So try to debug if you get a feeling that there is some security issues. test the tools you're using. Exploitation. This is obviously the phase that you're trying to abuse the security issues that you discovered. So you got to think, what do you want to achieve from that? How this security issue can be abused. So what can we do? Like, for example, if it's a cross-site scripting, yeah, most examples show that we just need to pop up a message box on the browser and that's all. No, that's not. When you're doing this for a customer, you got to provide them information. What might be the security implication? Okay, how does cross-site scripting can be abused? Can I hijack someone user account using that cross-site? Can I access the data? Can I dump the data from the database? No. For a CSO, they don't know the technology. It's just they just said they do know, but you tell them cross-site scripting, and the CISO will be wondering, okay, can anybody download, exfiltrate the database of our customers through a cross-site scripting? No, because it's not a SQL injection, so the direct access to the database. Wrong. I actually can put a cross-site script and it will exfiltrate every user that will be logging data to my server. I probably won't access all the users' data, but I will exfiltrate a pretty big amount of that data. So think of what you can achieve with specific exploitation, with what you can achieve with an exploitation of a specific security vulnerability. And yeah, for a lot of security issues, there are exploit databases where you can search for. And again, I refer to GitHub. There's a lot of malware there for research purpose. The last phase is post-exploitation. So exactly what I've mentioned here. So like just showing an alert on a browser isn't enough. Just a message that, yeah, I've managed to run some malicious code. You got to actually show what that malicious code will be capable of doing. What would be the impact for a business? So you got to collect some evidences of some proof that something bad happened, actually, something that will be understandable by the executives. Especially anything that can trigger that, how the hell did you get there? Face look on a customer face, that would be perfect. Colleagues of mine from a company from Poland actually were doing a red teaming assessment when they redirected a delivery of around 1,000 mobile phones to one of the pen testers' home address. So you can you can get a pretty much idea what was the face on the customer when they expected a delivery of 1,000 mobile phones and the delivery didn't arrive. It showed up that phones are delivered to totally different address. Sometimes it's a sort of situation we want to achieve because again, I said, people sometimes don't understand the implications unless they see it on their own or feel it. Okay, so practice. Where and how you can practice. Obviously, Hack the Box, what I mentioned. This is probably one of the most recognizable online hacking platform where you can learn and test your skills. There is a wide range of skills you gotta have there, and again, as said, to be like the best of the best out there, it's very hard. So definitely everyone, but there are also very easy devices to hack there. So probably everyone with different level of skills in offensive security will find something for them. A bit of difference than TryHackMe, because TryHackMe is a good entry point because there are actually a workarounds there. So walkthroughs through a different examples. So this is very easy. If you don't know how to do specific challenge, there's probably some description, some hints out there that you can just follow up during that challenge. On the Hack the Box, there are walkthroughs for specific machines, but it's after the machine is what we call closed. So it's not attending in the rank, it's not included in the ranking anymore. It still can be used for learning, but again,
Can you find them on YouTube?
Yeah, you can find them on YouTube. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them on some blogs, researcher blogs. Again, a lot of walkthroughs are on GitHub. If you just search Hack the Box. So, and there's a forum. Obviously, there's a forum on Hack the Box where you can simply ask for help. Obviously, nobody will guide you through how to hack a device because you got to learn. You got to, what they say, try harder to achieve that. But maybe somebody will drop you some tips. Yeah, there's just a couple of links for the rooms that I found. We'll be doing one of those rooms, but anyone be interested in doing some more, I just pick up some related to web application. Portswigger Web Security Academy. So Portswigger is the vendor that provides Burpsuit, one of the most recognizable tool for web application penetration testing. And as I said in the beginning, they're providing free labs when they're teaching, I think, practically every technique for web application exploitation and web application hacking. And at the end of that, you can buy an exam voucher. I think it's something around $200, something like this. And it's very good, very, very good practical example.
That for the Burpsuit
certified,
exam.
yeah, for the exam. Yeah. And the labs, the learning is free. And there's, of course, CTF, so capture the flag. One of the good starting point for that is ctftime.org. It's a ranking and a website, a hub of all the CTFs across all the countries out there. So everything is there from simple like local competitions to those most prestigious like a DEF CON and Black Hats conferences.
I want to jump in there. If you want to do something, but you're scared, we can pair up, we can do groups, and we can do things together. We used to do some CTFs as groups.
Yeah, actually, you can. In our company, the offensive department has its own team, so we've been doing some of the CTFs. So you can just create your team, register it on the ctftime.org, and you can just look. There's a calendar of the events, so you can look, try to schedule something, get around, everybody together, and just meet up. Spend some night because most of those CTFs is during nighttime, just to have some fun together. Yeah, a couple of those tools probably might be useful during that practical example we'll be doing. So for Hack the Box, TryHackMe, or the CTFs, OpenVPN, it's a VPN technology. It's probably a must-have to do that. I'm not mentioning that you gotta have like a Linux device. You could do probably some hacking on Windows. You could do this on Mac because Mac is a Unix system. So a lot of those tools that you can find on Linux systems, you'll be also able to find on working with them on Mac OS. Of course, there are tools for Windows. You can work with Windows, but yeah, basically, I would suggest have a Linux in your VirtualBox VM, or even use the built-in virtualization. Windows subsystem Linux, they designed something like this a couple years ago, so you can simply just run a Linux from a command line in a Windows. Burpsuit, again, this is the application for web. This is a tool for web application penetration testing. There's a commercial and open source version of it. Community version. Different is that in the commercial version, there's capabilities to run some automated scans, and that's basically all the differences. There's a plugin system for this tool where there's community developed plugins. So of course, some of the plugins only work with that commercial version because they are using the scanning capabilities. Nmap is probably the most basic tool that is used by hackers, by penetration tester. Is a tool for network discovery. It also has a, this is actually not a single tool. This is a stack of tools. When you install it, it has a couple of additional tools that might be useful. Like there's a tool for connecting to remote hosts over TCP or UDP protocols. And there is also a third tool in the stack for brute forcing different authentication services like FTP, SSH, and stuff like this. And yeah, this is a link to a tool in a browser which is called CyberChief. It's basically a set of different small tools that are very useful sorry, during hacking. There's like just to give you an example, there is you know, whenever you need to calculate MD5 checksum, replace some strings, or you need to calculate base 64, or maybe you need to do some like complex operation, revert string, and so on. It's all in the browser. So it's something like you could probably code it if you do know how to code in Python or whatever languages. But yeah, with that tool, you can basically do a lot of these helpful things in the browser.
We lost the display.
Oh.
Maybe a good point to give a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
It's off. Yeah, it's coming back on. Hopefully. Oh, yes. Okay. Let's continue. We'll give a break.
Yeah, I'm almost finished. So tools for cracking. This is also useful in assessments and during CTFs and maybe some hack the box machines. So basically, this is a link for websites where you can just input a password hash, and if somebody already cracked it, you just receive the password. So it's like almost like cracking. But you know, a lot of those hashmob.net has a very, very huge database of cracked passwords. So if you have like MD5 checksum or whatever, bcrypt, whatever, and there's a chance that somebody already cracked it, you will just receive a clear text password. Okay, be more professional. You know, for those of you who are thinking about offensive security as your way in your career, I got a couple of tips here that I've learned from the years and experience I've gained working with the customers. So be more professional during engagement. Take notes. And I mean, literally take notes of everything you're doing. I've met a pen tester that actually was screen recording all of his sessions because, you know, he was scared that he will forget something or miss something. He will just screen recording. Takes notes, takes screenshots. Sometimes, you know, some of our customers tend to change things during the assessment. So we might find the security issues, and if we don't record a proof of that vulnerability, we won't be able to provide that proof to the customer later because it showed up that they changed or they simply disabled that feature. It doesn't mean the security is fixed. Use some framework, some sort of checklist that you can follow up just to make sure that you've tested everything. There are frameworks like obviously the OWASP Web Application Security Testing Guide, the P-Test standard, there are NIST checklists. You can just use them as a sort of like the frameworks. You can use the framework as a sort of a checklist just to make sure, okay, I've tested this, I searched for content, I've tested for injection attacks, I've tested the authentication and authorization, I tested the encryption and so on. Yeah, just to make sure that you test everything. Read through the docs during the assessment. You know, whenever I'm speaking about what's the typical day of a penetration tester, I'm saying that most of the time we're spending on reading the documentations and Googling just through the internet, because the technology changes so often and there's a so wide range of technology that we're experienced during our assessment, during our engagement. There is no chance for any person to have the knowledge about all that tech, and to find out how things can be broken, we got to know how the things work, and that's through reading documentation. So a lot of vendor provides like security guidelines, and we've seen multiple customers just don't follow up. It's like, just to give you an example, we've tested one university when they've used they've had like a machine that students can VPN through a browser. So just like going to a browser, and they have like virtual desktop in a browser, and the virtual desktop was working in so-called kiosk mode. So you know this from the stores, where basically just can run just dedicated applications on that virtual desktop. And we've actually escaped from that kiosk mode, from that sandbox, and we're able to just act on those virtual desktop as a normal Windows machine, escalate further and move lateral to the network. And the provider of that technology actually had an information on the page that this kiosk mode can be used as a security control. Just somebody who implemented that technology didn't read through that. So that's why it's important to reading through the security guidelines, searching for best practices, and maybe some known vulnerabilities or security patches released. It's important to go through that. Exploit on a testing environment. Yeah, you don't want to break up production. Believe me, I've been there. It's, you know, I can laugh now, but it wasn't some fun when we've done that. Like we printed 2,000 papers, or yeah, even some worse cases. Anywhere, if you're not aware how the exploit works, try to test it on some testing environment. Many times easy to spin up like a testing application and just test it on your computer, on your device before you're doing that. And important note, when you're searching for an exploit code on the internet, even on those exploit databases, beware of infected files. There are some of those, like somebody's thinking it's funny to put a malware in a malware just to target the penetration tester. Code your actions. Learn some programming language. I mean, it's basic. You will be repeating the same actions day by day, hour by hour when on an assessment. And if you don't automate that process, it will take you time. So if you just know some basic programming language, Python, PowerShell, Bash scripting even, and you can just code the actions that you do to repeat the attack chains that you're performing, it's super productive. And yeah, these days it's easy with things like ChatGPT, even if you don't know the language, any programming language. Yeah, be careful on production. That's kind of fall back to that exploit, using an exploit. But I always repeat to my pen testers that whenever we're testing on production environment, sometimes customers don't have a testing environment set up. Be careful with any operations that performs data manipulation, so writes and deletes, because maybe there's no backup. Maybe you don't want to run like a full scan, which performs like a couple of thousand different requests and testing all different security issues on a add new record form, because if there's no cleanup feature or a database restore point, you will probably have to go through and remove everything manual, because at the end of the engagement, we got to give the environment in its beginning state. So cleaned up of everything that we've done. How to be professional during reporting. Evidence. So again, screenshots of everything. You've got access to some computer, put the host name on the screen, put its IP address, and provide that in the report. Put a nice steps to reproduce the vulnerability and the attack, actually. So remember, this has to be a step-by-step guide for an engineer who will know how to use different tools. But sometimes those attacks are made of a couple different steps. So make sure every step is mentioned in the report to reproduce a specific attack. course, provide an executive summary. So again, as I said, the executives are non-technical staff. You gotta speak their language. Most importantly, summarize and globalize what you found. Like, yeah, we got outdated software, and there's a lot of this. So probably there's some wrong with the patch management on your side. Statistic, obviously, the executives like statistics and graphs.
Tell me how many critical and highs.
Exactly. During the review with a customer, you gotta explain to them like they're 6 years old. You know,
Depends who you're talking to.
depends. It depends, but in most cases that I've been through, you gotta use non-technical language. Walk through the attack narrative. So in a proper offensive security report, aside from obviously a list of technical findings, details, and so on, there should be a whole narrative that guides you. Okay, how I found something, how I've exploited, what I've done later, did I moved somewhere or downloaded the database of users, whatever. Everything has to be sort of like an attack narrative, and you got to walk through with customer to show them the final impact. Very important thing that is missed by a lot of offensive security companies is to highlight what was done good. I mean, we also speak about this recently. At the end of the day, we could give an empty report, right? And say, yeah, you're clear, right? There's nothing. But if I was a customer, I would say, okay, how can I be sure that you've actually tested anything, right? I won't. So it is important to highlight there are things, the security controls implemented by a customer that are correct, that they've done good. And obviously, nobody just wants to hear the bad things, right? So, you need to tell them, okay, you got a good password security level, but you got other issues, right? And it's also important if you're following specific methodology like OWASP, there's sectors. You got to test encryption, you got to test authorization, authentication. If those parts are good and there's cross-site scripting, yeah, you can put an information that there's security issues with validating the user input, but the level of authentication and authorization and encryption on the application is fine. So it's good. Remember that the ultimate goal of offensive security hacker penetration tester is to make the customer more secure. Don't ever forget about it, because I've seen penetration tester where they ended on, yeah, we found the security issue. That's the security issues. Here you go. They don't provide any information what to do, how to remediate it, how to mitigate it. You will have to work with customer, because sometimes they can apply simple remediation actions like, patch the software. They may not be able to patch the software because they have some legacy system that the vendor is not supporting, but they are using that, especially if you deal with healthcare, hospitals. I know why they're hacked so often, because they just use like medical equipment with Windows 2000 whatever servers. So unfortunately, they have to do this because this is an expensive equipment and the vendors are not supporting patches. So you got to know how to help them, how to make them more secure, not just provide them, yeah, you got information, you got security issues, you got to fix them. Okay, that's all for the theory and the tips. And I don't know if we want to do a break and we will jump to the practical.
I think so. Maybe 5 minutes break.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's have a 5-minute break. And
Eddie, what's the URL for the?
TryHackMe.com.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. But we come together for a social event sometimes. Sometimes louder. Very community.
Oh, yes.
I will meet. Yeah, if anybody needs internet, please do try to get on the guest network, and you will need my email, which I will enter for you. Oh, this one, you enter yours, the next step. will be mine. Upside down.
Okay, so we'll be doing some TryHackMe example. This is one of the platforms.
You need 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure. If anybody needs help with registering accounts,
I will approve.
let me know. Potentially anybody online have any questions?
Madan is done. Catherine, done. Thank you. It's getting cold. Maybe we should do a nice break. Tanya, done.
What's the room name? What's the room name?
Oh, room name. Which room are we gonna do?
It's called OWASP Top 10. So I didn't provide the URL, but you just search for Top 10. It's the
This
first
one,
one.
top 10 or top 10 2021.
Only top 10.
Top 10.
You ready?
Mhm.
Woohoo!
Everybody
Let's
ready?
go.
Okay, so for those of you who haven't used TryHackMe before, basically everything you'll need is a browser. I will show some extra things that can be done aside that should be, for example, done during normal assessment, but you probably won't need anything more than a browser. You do gotta have some basic knowledge about Linux system, but if you don't, I will provide some answers where to search for. There are also hints, and I think we will, because this is always top 10, so it's a group of tasks that focus on different areas of web application security. So on every task there is like a space for answer. Some of the task doesn't need actual answer to be provided, so you just gotta click complete. It presumes that you have read through the task instructions or through the knowledge that is shared there. But there will be tasks where you will have to provide some answer by actually exploiting some security issues. So I don't know if I go simply
I have a
through.
question.
Yeah.
Does it record the things you're doing, or do we want to take notes on separately. You know, or
On the
thing.
screen, it'll be,
No, on the
everything will be
machine.
visible. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's visible, but if like we try to do it at home again,
Yeah,
will we
if
be
you
able
try
to?
it, if you, for example, will be willing to try it from scratch, there's an option to reset the progress.
Mm.
Eventually, it just goes, from the beginning. But if everybody register account on their email address, I don't think there's any point of resetting any progress that you will make. We probably won't have enough time to go through all of this, but yeah, we'll try to. I will show you just some practical examples. And
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, here you go.
Okay, as said, for having access to the devices, you would normally need an open VPN. So if anyone has open VPN installed on their computer and was using it previously, you can use it. You can just download the open VPN configuration to get access to the network, TryHackMe network. But if you don't, you actually can use what's called an attack box. So it's a sort of a virtual machine in the browser. I think I have used mine. Oh no, yeah, I should have. So basically, if you click on the top, start the attack box, it will split the screen into two spaces, and virtual machine will run with Linux installed on, and then you'll be able to perform actions over the browser. So it's like a remote desktop.
Will it have all the tools we need, or do we really really see?
Yeah, we'll see. Again, I said, I think that I didn't went through all the tasks in that exercise, but I think all that I've managed to go through require only browser access. Okay, so let's just move forward. So again, this first task, you can just simply click complete, and as long as I presume you have read through the introduction and how to access machine, I've already said how to do
I've
that.
got lost already actually, because I've either got to do the open VPN. I didn't see the bit where it clicked to go in the browser.
The attack box, that part, yeah. So it was.
So accessing machine.
It was somewhere over here. So
Attack
you
box.
see.
Yeah, basically the button was here on the top, on the right side.
Ah, right, didn't see it looking.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got it. Yes.
Got it.
Okay, so the laboratory starts with injection flows. So injection flows basically is every user input that's put into web application can result in a sort of injection attack. Now, this can be injections for a different technology. So this can be an injection to a SQL database. This can be injection to HTML code, injection of malicious JavaScript, basically anything that user inputs to an application. And aside from a simple example that will be showed here in the task, a lot of people understand that what user inputs to web application is like when we fill out some forms and input some data in those forms, but that's not the only input that we send to web applications. There are browser data, there's IP addresses that we send, there's a lot of metadata that we're sending to application that's not practically visible on a user end, but can cause some malicious activity on the web application. So we won't read through that. We'll simply go through the task. But if you want, you can go through that. I will just simply give you some time to perform the challenge that is down there. But basically, what we'll be trying to do is called OS command injection. So we'll be mimicking a situation where a user of web application can run commands on a server where the application is running. So it will be like, you start a terminal and just entered some commands on the terminal of that server. Sometimes the applications are designed in a way that's possible to execute some commands. So I'll just click through those tasks that don't require any specific answer. And the first task where you will have to actually do something is the task number 5. What you will need to do is to click that start machine button. And within a minute, you will be provided an IP address. If you have an VPN connection, you will be able to simply connect to that VPN and just communicate with that IP address. If you don't have a VPN, open VPN solution, you can connect with that web application, communicate with that web application that will be shown in a moment through that virtual machine that we have here. There's some default browser.
That start machine is imitating
Yeah,
the
the start
server.
that
we
machine
want.
is running a vulnerable web application, a device with vulnerable web application. So as soon as once you click the start machine, and as soon as there will be IP address shown on the top of that room page, yeah, I can just copy that IP address, and in that attack box that I have access to, I'll just have to actually copy. Pasting doesn't work, so I'll just have to rewrite it.
Why is it taking
It's
so long?
working as expected.
In this situation in real life, would you? You trying to be.
Yeah, if I don't have access, seems like I can connect with that. Oh yeah, maybe it's running on a different port. No, it should be actually 10.10.92. Oh, I know what's happening. It's probably the browser. Yeah, the browser was forcing me to use HTTPS. Okay, anybody has similar problems, or did you manage to open that? No. Well, let me have a look maybe. Yeah, that's why the same problem that's me. So it's trying to use HTTPS, so it's a encrypted protocol. Yeah, if anybody has a problem with opening that page on the attack box, there is just to show me that clearly. Here in the URL address, you just gotta make sure it's HTTP, not HTTPS, because if it's HTTPS, it won't work. So basically, this is an example where a security issue was designed and developed by the engineers. So the application is mimicking some search feature, but you can actually put a comments in there. And one of the most typical command that you can enter to make sure you have some sort of command injection capabilities on a web application, it's a command called who am I. This is a command that works on every operating system, Linux, Windows, Mac OS. So normally probably enter some sort of username here, right? And you get whatever output. But if you enter it, sorry, my bad. We actually got to go to a URL that's called evil shell. Yeah, that's the form where you enter a comment. So,
But if it didn't tell us that,
yeah, so
how would you find what is the
So-
vulnerable?
the case that is like simulated here is that probably there was some security issue and some threat actor have already uploaded what we call like a web shell. So a script that's capable of executing command. Normally, obviously, I'll presume that this could be whatever form on a web application that's you're putting some input, it processes that input in some way, and at some point, part of that input can be understood as a operating system command. This is obviously something that is found during that vulnerability scanning phase where we're testing we're not doing that manual. This is done by the tools. Like I would just run a burp suit, enter that URL, and ask it to run a different sort of inputs here in that form in order to test whether there's any security issues. So it will be doing like, setting here like X, 1, 2, 3, whatever, some special characters. And at some point, if it's putting something like this, who am I? It says, okay, we got some output here below. So who am I because who am I is a operating system command, it looks like there's a command injection vulnerability here. Okay, so the goal of this task is actually to find a file in a web directory, in a web root directory, and put that information here in the answer. So this is why I mentioned this is you got to know some basics of a Linux operating system here, because you got to know how to list assume that you have run a terminal application in some folder. Like, let me say, for example, I'm running something like here, and I just want to see all the files that are in that specific folder. So for those of you who are not aware with Linux, the command to list some files in Linux is simple ls. So this showing me the output, what are the documents, what are the folders, and what are the files in a specific folder. Yeah, so simply got to put that command in the form and answer the question, what's the strange text files in a website root directory? So you will probably see some files. You will see probably that evilshell.php there. And there will be some file with the .txt extension. That's our answer. The file name is our answer. So I will give you 2 minutes. But if anybody has any issues, just ask me for help. Anybody got answer? Managed to answer that question?
For the first one.
Yeah, the first one. The was the name of the file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got that one.
Okay, so just follow that step. So yeah, I can see it's a Dr. Pepper.txt.
Did you do ls in
Yeah, I'll just
there?
use ls to list the files and folders in directory where the current script is running. And just for clarification, because the command is executed in the folder where that evil shell script is placed in. So if I want to see something in some other folder, maybe for example in the root directory of a system, I will have to give it path. So let's say I'll list everything that's in the root file system. And yeah, I have bin, boot, cd-rom, dev, etc. These are typical folders in Linux system. Just to confirm the same on that machine. So bin, home, and so on. So another question is to find how many non-root, non-service users, non-daemon users are there in the system. So basically, we need to find out what are the users on the systems running. Well, the approach is similar in all the systems. So just to give you a hint, in all operating system, there's some folder where there are home folders for specific users. Like, for example, in Windows, it's C/users, and you can see a list of all the users that have accounts on the device. Obviously, there's a place where you can list all the accounts created on the operating system, but as the question suggests, there are some accounts that are used by services in the Linux system, some like, for example, root, admin, whatever, web server account. These are all services account. But there's a folder on that system somewhere which holds home directories for every users. So naturally, by just visiting that folder and seeing how many folders are in it, you will be probably able to answer the second question. And just for clarification, we can use the same command that we used previously. So we can use ls something, some path, where we will see a list of, basically a list of users on that operating system. I'm not giving a clue just for another minute, but if you see all the folders on the system, it is easy to find out which folder you're looking for. And just another tip here, what I've mentioned during the presentation, if you don't know something, Google it. Anybody managed to answer that question?
Started play, so my machine is still trying to
Connect?
connect to the other server.
Oh, you probably gotta give it a minute or something. Anybody? Nope. Okay, so sorry.
Is it the ETC?
Sorry, what?
No, is it
No, no,
ETC
no, no, no,
folder?
no, no. It's the folder is called home. So /home, it's, as it says, is a home folder for all the users. It's a default folder for all the users. So you can see in that attack machine, I have a root and Ubuntu users. When I execute that ls home, I don't have any output, which can mean that's something wrong with the command, or the answer is 0. So there are no users on that machine that are non-root, non-service, or non-daemon.
That's like a trick question because you get nothing back. Was going,
Sorry? What?
that was like a trick question there.
Yes,
You were getting nothing
it
back.
was. It was.
Like, that can't be right.
When we're running it on our machine, it's our machine.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when
This
we
is
run it on the evil shell, it's on the
exactly. So I showed that
vulnerable.
example on
Sure.
that attacking machine. So this is that attacking machine. So obviously there are some users because I'm logged in as a root currently. So that have to be root user at least. It actually shouldn't be in the home folder, but anyway, there's Ubuntu user. The same command ls/home executed on that web application shows the users in the home. And just to give you an information how this is used in a practice penetration test, this is actually what we do. So most of the web applications are running on a low privilege service account. What we're trying to do when we get this sort of vulnerability, like code execution, we're trying to get highest possible privileges. Sometimes it's a direct from the web server to the root account. The root is obviously the administrator of the system. Sometimes we can escalate to a normal user, and maybe from that normal user, we can escalate to the administrator. And actually, there's another question which follows that path. So what the user this application is running at. So actually, I gave you a tip at the beginning of that task because running that command that I showed in the beginning shows the username for the user that is running the web application. So if you enter one of those commands, and the command is listed in the task description, you will have the username. It's a service account, but you can get the name of that service account, and it's an answer for this question. Anybody got the answer already? So just to clarify, yeah, that's www data. Just to clarify that who-am-I command, which I mentioned at the beginning, is probably the best option to check for the command injection. Is a way to check that account name that is running the web application. And again, here this is exactly what we're doing during a penetration test. So we get some sort of what we call it like initial access. We get some sort of initial access. We are trying to identify, okay, what the privileges we have with that initial access. Sometimes we don't have to escalate the privileges because we already have, like, somebody have misconfigured the web application and it's running the web server with the highest possible privileges. So we don't have to search for a way to escalate from there. We can already do anything that we want. In this example, this is most typical www data. This is the name of the service account that's running web server. It's the same for basically all the Linux systems. Okay, the next one question is tricky because again, this is something you got to know the structure of the Linux system and know where to search that information. So I'll just show it how to do this on my Linux attacking box. So basically a shell, it's a sort of privileged terminal that you can run with a specific user. So you can log in, when you log into a computer on a Linux system, you get sometimes you have some privileges to perform some execution on the shell, what we say. But there are different types of shell, and some user accounts actually are not allowed to log in and to execute anything on that shell. We can do this by hacking the application, but normally you wouldn't be able to log into a Linux system as a www data user and execute any code. And the information about that shell name that specific user has is actually located at etc slash root etc slash pass wd that file, sorry, and we gotta actually see the content of that file. And the easiest command to see the content of a file on a Linux system, also on a Windows, but through a PowerShell, is cat, like the animal. When we do this, we can see the content of the etc password file. What we need to do is we need to search that username here, www data, and the part that's that we're interested is that last part of the row. And just to clarify, I'm showing here how it looks on my attacking box. But if you do the same on that vulnerable application, so cat etc pass wd, yeah, you can see the content of this file.
Doesn't give me anything.
User ESP no login.
Sorry?
User ESP no login.
Yeah.
Can you show again? Which command you use?
With command to show, yeah, it was cat etc slash passes wd.
Okay, I was missing one slash.
What we got to do here is we got to find that www data. So yeah, just a quick tip. We can use the browser built-in search to find that. And quick explanation here: we're seeing a content here without the proper new line information because we're actually seeing HTML formatted output. So it's a bit messy here, the output of that file. What you can do is click the right mouse button on the page and click the view page source, because this will give you a bit better formatting for that file content. And we can see the row here. It's www data. That's the username, and the last part of this row says user has been no login, which actually means that the user can log in. This is what I've said, and this is the answer. If you've managed to answer that and actually open that page source view, we can actually use that page source view to perform other commands, so we get a better formatting of output of any other command that we will execute. And yeah, just I suggest you try to do that in your way. So another question here is we need to get a version of the system running. So to get a version of a Linux system, there is a command called, I don't know if you will see it, but it's ls underscore I forgot the command name. It's a memory lag.
Get EPC OS release.
Yeah. Yeah, it's LSB release. Yeah. So the full command LSB_release -a. It's a way to get information about the operating system running. So what you can do is while you're in that source code view, instead of going back to that form and inputting the command in the form, you can actually see that command is in the URL in a parameter here. The whole cat thing is here. So we can actually put a command here. Yeah, you can put a command here and you can see already the format, the output here.
Can you show the last part of that?
Yeah, that URL. So I basically, so there's a,
That's how it works with PHP, is it? Or would it
it's
work with
everything.
any?
So basically this is a nature of a web application. It's called get parameters. So everything that's put in the URL after the question mark is in format parameter name equals the value of the parameter. And different parameters can be provided with ampersand. So I can put another parameter here equals something if the application supports other parameters. And while we're here, since you've asked, one of the techniques that we would be normally doing when testing the security of web application is called parameters enumeration. So basically what we're doing is we're taking that part, the parameter name of a URL, and we're just running it through a dictionary of common parameter names like, user, pass, version, whatever. There are different dictionaries available because sometimes there can be hidden parameters, so you can't see them through a natural navigation through a page, but you can find it because the developer, and because I was a developer, I know what mistakes are made by developers. So, for example, I personally tended to add something called debug equals true, and when you put that parameter in the URL, it actually showed the whole traces, stack traces of an error on a web application. If there was an error, this was a sort of a way to doing quick fix on production services. But yeah, developers tend to do that these days. So, and they can either put it intentionally or they forget to remove that, and this lands on the production. So there's a way to actually find this parameter name if we would be doing normal application penetration testing. Okay, so going back to our question, if you managed to execute that command, the answer to the question is the version of the Ubuntu is 18.04.4. And the last question is,
I guessed it, but I don't know how to properly do it. Because
Yeah.
First
so
answer.
guessing is also a technique of hacking. You
I
can
can
do
do very
this,
good hacking.
but this is again, this question is will
What is MOTD?
yeah,
What of
MOTD.
today
This is again, I
something?
said this question has nothing to do with real life hacking. It's a pure example that people tend to use in challenges and laboratories. MOTD is a
Match of today
is
or something?
what is it says something of the day. So it's like when you log into a Linux system, you can sometimes see some information, maybe the version message of the day. It's some I don't remember exactly what's called, but anyway, you can obviously on a Linux system you can configure what's shown. You know, sometimes as an IT admin, I like to the system to show me, for example, CPU and memory usage once I log in. So I put a specific comments to show that.
It's message of the day.
Message of the, I think it's message of the day. Yeah. You just Google it, right?
No, I know.
Anyway, this is kind of tricky again because you gotta know where to search for. But here in this example, I think it's the configuration is in the / root etc folder. Sorry, it's let me just find, yeah, another folder. So we got to go deep down to the rabbit hole.
We start with LSETC.
Yeah, you can, if you want to find out the answer, you just got to follow up. So basically there's a file in the etc update motd.d folder, and the file is called 00 header.
So would we do cat?
Yeah,
MOTD
exactly. What we need to do is actually see the content of that file. So I'm actually doing cat, and yeah, again, I'm going to show the page source. You want to see, if you want to see that full path. That's the file that we're interested in, and basically somewhere in that file, if you read the question, what's the favorite beverage, there was an answer previously hidden in the file name, but yeah, it's Dr. Pepper's, make the world taste better.
Woohoo! We're all hackers now.
Someone loves Dr. Pepper. Wait.
Just a kind of hint, because while searching that information was like a specific to that to the author of that example, but this is something that we do. So if you remember when I said like exploiting vulnerability, like finding vulnerability security issue is not enough, because we gotta like dig deeper. We gotta find out what can be done with that. Okay, I got a command injection on a server. What else? What I can do with that? So again, I said an executive will be wondering, okay, can you exfiltrate any data? Oh yeah, I can. Okay, what data you can exfiltrate? So I'll be, for example, searching for some sensitive files. Maybe there's a database file there I can simply download. So I don't have to, have like a SQL command, like a injection to a database, because I can simply download the database file from the server. Or maybe, and this is very typical for web application, because there's source code. So there are some configuration firewall applications. A lot of applications these days are using third-party APIs. There has to be API key secret somewhere in the application. There is a password to the database somewhere in the source code of the application. So this is exactly what we're doing here. It's mimicking that searching for that Dr. Pepper. Normally, I would be running sort of a find command to find any file on the system that contains word pass or secret or key or creds, something like this. And there are tools also, as I mentioned, there are tools for that. One of the best tools to perform host security identification that we use most times in solutions like TryHackMe or Hack the Box is called LinPiece. is just a set of different scripts that's running different security checks on the system. With doing this, it's searching for privileges of the users that I have an account. So doing that, who am I? It's searching for users. It's searching for any file that contains this, this keyword, passphrase, key, secret, anything, and it just outputs the information straight to me.
Like, would you run that in that evil shell?
Yes,
So
I
would
could.
you?
I could.
Okay.
So basically, normally if this was like a full offensive assessment, what I would be trying to do is, first thing is to get some sort of a better terminal access. I don't want to put those commands every time here. I would prefer to have something like this, right? Where I can simply enter the command and get the output. And what we're doing is we're uploading what is called a reverse shell. So this is a script that connects from that computer to my computer, to my attacking box, and it's opening a terminal shell. So I'm basically on my computer able to perform commands on that device that I compromised. And I mentioned Nmap because the Nmap has a tool to perform that actions. I can actually show you a quick example how it works. If we do have, if there are no restrictions, I'm not sure if there are no restrictions on the firewall. So basically what I'd be willing to do is to perform a command on that web application, on that web server, to connect back to my machine. So what I'm running here is I'm opening a TCP connection on my machine. It's running a service that's just waiting for anybody to connect on port 8080. And now I'll just go to that application and I'll run a command to connect my computer. Oh, sorry, I just got to know the IP address of my device. But
What is the NC command? What does that do?
it's a netcat. It's an actually tool, a binary tool that is part of that Nmap, and it's the basic version of this command is included in every Linux devices. So it's available from the scratch. On the Windows, it's not, but Windows have PowerShells. We can use PowerShells to perform similar operations. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm tasking the web server to connect to my IP addresses, which is displayed on the top of TryHackMe on that port 8080. Yeah, and you can see I have connection received from that server. This is not full example of a remote shell. I would have to put some other flags here, but basically what I would be trying to achieve here is to being able to run those commands here in the terminal rather than doing it through a web application.
Nice. So we have to stop there. We have done command injection, right?
Yes, we've done command injection.
Anyone can try to do them on your own, or we can, if you're on Slack, and if you want to continue doing it, we can get together, try to fix it online, like together. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody has an account, so you can just follow up. And again, as I said in my presentation, TryHackMe is a very good starting point because, as you see, we didn't go through actually all those descriptions, but everything that you need to know in order to perform, to answer those questions is either written here or simple query to Google will give you the answer. What
There was a
comments?
walkthrough, I think, somewhere.
Yeah, there are walkthroughs eventually because this is an old room, so there are a lot of walkthroughs through this room where you can simply follow the steps and to see how it works. And I encourage you to do that, to try with the TryHackMe. This is one of the easiest room. There are some more advanced rooms when you get known with this stuff. And later at some point, you may try to hack the box platform. It's a bit of, you gotta get a bit more experience, because even I think still it was at least a couple of years ago, to create an account on a Hack the Box platform, you actually gotta do some hacking on a registration form. So it's not like you can just enter your email and name and have an account there. You just gotta prove at least some level of understanding. So TryHackMe is good because there are walkthroughs, there are guides, there are hints. Actually, if I didn't show that, but if we just simply click like those hints here, yeah, it gives the name of the file that we were supposed to find to give answer to that question. And I focused on the web applications because the web applications is basically a sort of part of every other assessment time. When you're doing network penetration testing, there are always some web applications. Mobile applications are actually just what we have on a mobile device is an user end part of the application. There's some server running somewhere, and it's the server is actually a web server. It's communicating over web protocols. So yeah, web applications are basically part of every aspect of network security. Cloud is all about web application. You know, from my perspective, all the management of a cloud services is done through a web service, through an APIs. And so if you know how to hack web applications, you will probably know how to hack networks, how to hack mobile applications, how to hack the cloud. And that's it. Questions?
Oh. We will stop here then.
Okay.
And thank you,
Thank you.
Smarttech, Eddie, and thank you all for coming as well. And thank you who are still on the line. I will upload the video once it starts, once it processes. And you can, watch it again. If you missed anything, I'll stop the recording now. Good night.